This is the Purple Passion Project with host and clinical sexologist, Dr. Stacy Friedman. This is your go-to podcast for raw, real, and irresistibly juicy conversations about sex, intimacy, connection, and everything in between. Whether you're feeling a little stuck in your love life, curious about what turns you on, or just craving conversations that actually matter, you're in the right place. So now, please welcome the host of the Purple Passion Project, Dr. Stacy Friedman.
What do you get when you mix purple, passion, and permission to be your true self? This podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Stacy, and this is the Purple Passion Project, coming to you live and unfiltered. It's the show where we talk sex, intimacy, connection, and everything underneath the surface, because let's be honest, small talk is boring, and you're ready for the good stuff. So relax, drop your guard, get ready for truth, laughs, maybe a few guests, and a whole lot of passion. And today we are diving into one of my favorite topics, pleasure in all its delicious forms. We're talking orgasms for men and women, what keeps us from reaching them, how to unlock satisfying connected experiences in the bedroom. I want to explore how to turn good sex into great sex, navigating mismatched desire, all these great subjects. And with us today to guide us through it all, I am joined by the brilliant Dr. Rachel Needle, who is a licensed psychologist, certified sex therapist, and also co-director of the Modern Sex Therapy Institutes. She's also been a voice in Glamour, Cosmo, Men's Health, Washington Post. I can go on and on. She's here to help us ditch shame, turn up the heat, and keep our sex lives thriving for the long haul. And it is Dr. Rachel Needle. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Stacy.
Lots of things that you have been in. So great, be able to get out there and be noticed and give such great information. Very, very nice.
Thank you.
I was reading something that you had sent to me when I did our little questionnaire about the Dr. Ruth thing. I just want to share something real quick. When I was younger and people used to call me, I don't know how I got into Dr. Ruth, but I remember in high school, people used to say, oh, it's Dr. Stacy, Dr. Ruth, before I was even in the field. And so I saw you had said that you got into the field because you were watching something or a book that you saw when you were in 5th grade on Dr. Ruth.
Yeah, well, I was kind of born into this. You know, my mom was in
Right.
a reproductive health center when I was 2 and was very open about sex and sexuality to the point where she had these books on her shelf. So I read my first Dr. Ruth book in 5th grade and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And, you know, loved it and loved educating and talking to people and and was taught that pleasure is important.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's so funny because the path is so similar because I literally was all about Dr. Ruth. I just don't remember how I got into her because being young like that, it's like, how else maybe besides a book would you be into that? But anyway, I just thought that was cool. So today I want to talk about orgasms because I want to kind of set the stage for the beginning part of our conversation because orgasms seem to be something that is always in the forefront of our minds when we're talking about sex. And I know that a lot of people, if they're not able to have one, they're not able to so-called give one, there's also issues with confidence and it affects. So why do orgasms seem to have this power over everybody sexually?
Well, I think first, these messages we get as that orgasm is the end all be all and important. And I think we'll get into that a little bit more later.
Right.
But orgasms aren't just a physical release, right? They're a full body neurological event. When we orgasm, our brain releases all of these feel good hormones and chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, serotonin. So it's not, just about pleasure, right? These things are also deeply tied to our emotional regulation, stress reduction, self-perception. And I think orgasms also, besides being really pleasurable, remind us that we are desirable and alive and connected to our bodies, which is so important. And that's linked to self-confidence. And we're always, I was just talking about pleasure, like we are socialized, especially women, right? That
Right.
others to disconnect from our own pleasure. So reclaiming orgasm can feel like really reclaiming agency when you ask for, receive, create pleasure on our own terms and your own terms. It reinforces power, not just in the bedroom, but everywhere, right? So
Everywhere.
it's this feedback loop, right? It can help everything, our body image, how we feel about ourselves, confidence.
When you walk more with your chest down, you feel powerful,
Absolutely. So
energized.
orgasms feel like magic because in a way they are, right? We combine biology, psychology, identity in one explosive, really, no pun intended, sometimes literally moment. So when you own your own pleasure, it will show in every, like you said, you walk with your chest up, and the way we walk and the way we talk and the way we feel about ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that what happens so many times is that the focus is always on that, which is why so many people can't get that, is because we're so focused on that destination and not that journey. And so what we have to learn is that buildup to get to the orgasm is usually what helps you have that orgasm. So that could even be better than the end result. So how do we keep people focused on that journey aspect and that fun spark, and not so much on the orgasm to allow us to have that orgasm?
Yeah, we need to stop having goal-oriented sex, right? Because then we miss all the really fun and yummy things about pleasure and
Yummy.
sex. So, yes, sometimes the buildup is the most erotic part, right?
Right.
Anticipation activates our imagination, our curiosity, our desire. It keeps us engaged, not just physically, but also emotionally. So the tension between wanting and having, and that's really where we feel alive and where the real sparks fly. So we're all about instant gratification, um,
Right.
but slowness is really sexy. So we
Yeah.
want to tease, we want to flirt, we want to brush the hand. That's all leading up to send, pictures and notes and text messages, and do everything we can to build up the excitement and the fantasy, and have ourselves stay curious about our partners. And that is really what leads to the most pleasure and excitement, and is so much hotter than just that 10 seconds.
For some people, it might be a little less, might be a little more, but no, it's true. Because
14, 20 seconds.
no, but I have so many people that'll be like, oh, well, they'll go through the entire day. They either don't talk to each other, they don't message each other. They come home, they're taking care of this, taking care of that. And then at the end of the night, they're like, did you feel like having sex? Yeah, sure. Let me just check I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, where's that buildup? Where's that intensity? Where's that spark? You
Well,
need that to
yeah,
get.
and we need to not treat orgasm like it's a goal, because then sex does become performance based. It's all about getting somewhere, doing it correctly, checking the boxes. And that's a lot of pressure and anxiety, which does not go well with pleasure and excitement.
Right.
So it's less likely that you're actually going to have an orgasm if that's all you're focused on. So when we shift our mindset, when orgasm becomes part of the journey, not the final destination, we're able to have fun, to be curious, to play, right? To tune into the sensations, to stay in our body, which is really what, creates that excitement and freedom and pleasure. And it becomes fun and enjoyable.
It's right. And then, so talking about staying in your body, and I know that that's one of the things I hear from women all the time, that they struggle to stay in their bodies.
Yeah.
When you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, well, we could just have to stay in our bodies and forget everything. How do you get people to be in that space and be able to try to focus on their own body?
And that's such an important question. And there's so much to that, right? Our biggest sex organ is our brain, right? So if we are in our heads and thinking about, did I leave the stove on? Do I have to pick the kids up from work? What do I have to do for work?
Laundry, is that.
Yeah. I mean, there's just no way, right? Desire and orgasm are deeply tied together, and they're tied to safety, both emotional, psychological, relational. We need to feel comfortable with ourselves. If we're constantly focused on what we look like or what we have to do, we're not going to be in our body. But that is what a lot of us, tend to do. So we
Right.
need to make sure that we are tuning into, focusing on, if we see ourselves distracting, just bringing ourselves back. Practicing mindfulness can be very powerful, because it'll be easier for us to get there if we know, if our brain is trained that way.
Right. Yeah, because I know a lot of people that's what they have a hard time doing, is bringing themselves back. And so I try to get people to really focus on when you're trying to get away from the laundry and this and that and everything you have to do, is say, okay, what is my body feeling right now? Where am I being touched? What are my sensations? And not worry. I have so many people that come in and they're like, oh, well, I have to hide my face when I have an orgasm. I don't want my partner to see me moaning or screaming. It's like, why not? Let it out, girl. Like, let it out. Not worry about that.
We think it looks weird, and actually they think it looks hot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's, you're judging yourself. So many of us judge ourselves and how we look, how we feel, oh, well, I don't like this because my belly sags or my boobs are hanging or the fat rolls are, you know what? If your partner's getting some, they usually don't care,
100%.
100%. And so another thing that I found that could help too in the bedroom is some sexy talk. I'm not talking about the raunchy stuff, because when I talk about, like, with some of my clients about dirty talk, right away they think, oh, I don't like dirty talk. But dirty talk's not all about that. So how can people do some nice talking in the bedroom to help build things, excitement up and stuff like that?
Yeah, sexy talk is really important and can be really, helpful in getting you and your partners into it. Sexy talk can be simple, right? Like something like, don't stop. I love the way you're touching me. Or you can be more graphic and be more specific, right? But these things build tension, connection, and confidence. So they let your partner or partners know what's working, what you want. It lets them kind of go deeper if they want to. And it makes you vulnerable, but it is incredibly powerful. So, keep things playful. We can turn it into a conversation. We can make it, fun and funny. We can laugh. Laughing together is super hot during sex. It doesn't
Right.
it helps you get more into your body and forget about all of that pressure. So start small, be real, even just a whisper of, just like that, don't stop, can be hotter than the fantasy.
Absolutely. And I know so many people are afraid to hear their own voice because they're not used to it. So I tell them, I say,
Mhm.
practice in the bathroom,
Yeah,
practice in the bathroom,
I love
and don't worry about it, because, so many people assume that their partner should know exactly what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And there's so many couples that are just so completely quiet in sex. And it's so important to be able to, like you said, just go deeper. Oh, I'm wet. I'm hot, or that feels good. It's those little things that make such a huge difference.
100%.
Um, and so as we talking about couples, especially in like longer term relationships, we have this myth that desire can fade as we age. And I feel that that's, listen, obviously we all have our hormones and things change. So what have you found with desire as we're getting older?
Yeah, let's take that thought and toss it, burn it, and never look back, right? So the idea that desire naturally disappears with age is outdated. And honestly, it's a little insulting, right? Like what changes as we age is how we maybe experience desire, how we prioritize it, because our bodies change, hormones shift, our relationships change a little bit. But that
Our
doesn't.
back hurts, our knees hurt.
Yeah, yeah, everything hurts sometimes. No. But it doesn't mean that desire is gone. It just means we need to approach it differently, right? In fact, a lot of people, as they age, increase, their report increased desire, right? Their confidence is better. They, are not
You
scared to
clean the
communicate.
house.
Yes, exactly. So they know what they like. They're not scared of, for females pregnancy, right? They're less afraid to ask for what they want. They've stopped, measuring sex by these outdated standards, like how much we have it. So I think what kills desire is not age, right? It's stress, it's disconnection, it's shame, lack of novelty, not feeling good about yourself, feeling invisible. So that is not, just older adults, right? That's anyone. So instead of saying that desire fades, let's start saying what kind of desire
Changes.
can emerge now? How is it changed?
Oh, I
Because
like
it is never too late to feel good about your body, to feel sexy, to feel wanted, to feel alive, to have pleasure.
Yeah, no, I like that, how it
Mm.
it changes, but it's just learning a new way of desire, because we have different stages in our life, and be able to say, okay, well, I'm in this stage now. what is desire like as we're in this stage? Because I know I'm going through menopause, and I know that my desire changed specifically because of hormone issues. And I'll tell you, I'm starting back on those hormones, and I'm like, oh, yes, I'm back. So, you want to look at every reason why it might fade. You want to look at your relationship. You want to look at your hormones. You want to look at, like you said, variety, all these different things. And what can you do different, and not assume that your partner knows what you want, because we change all the time. Our desires and needs change all the time. So I love that. I want to talk a little bit about women and orgasm, because I know that that's something that's very common that comes in to my practice, about not being able to, or faking it, or things like that. Why do you think so many women struggle to have orgasms? Because I know a lot of us are in our head and not in our bodies. But what do you see?
Yeah, so a number of factors. And for, the biggest barrier is often mental. Like I said, our biggest sex organ is our brain. But so a lot of times, as we mentioned earlier, we're in our heads instead of in our bodies, thinking about how we look, spectating, like we're taking too long. So, it's important. That's important, as well as knowing our own bodies. So if
Right.
we don't know what excites us and how to turn ourselves on, it's going to be hard to help someone else to turn us on. So that's really important as well. I think for some women, we question, are we doing it right? Do we deserve to feel this kind of pleasure? We don't feel safe. We don't feel good about ourselves in a relationship. So we also have these cultural messages, right? That, how we're supposed to be sexually, which impacts our ability to feel good and be in our bodies and have an orgasm. So the good news is, it is possible, whether you haven't ever had an orgasm, or you've just had more trouble recently, being able to get to the point where you feel good, which is the first goal, right? Not orgasm, is possible. And so is orgasm. So again, let's shift from goal-oriented sex to pleasure-oriented connection. And when we do that, it makes a whole world of difference.
Absolutely.
Right.
So now, talking about knowing ourselves, we have to bring up masturbation.
Absolutely.
We need to know ourselves in and out. And so, how would you guide someone who wants to learn about themselves? And what is the importance of that? I think that we need to do that to be able to have better sex.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, how do you ask for what you want if you don't even know what that is, right? What you want, what turns you on. So masturbation, soul play is one of the most powerful tools that we have for being able to build sexual self-awareness and our confidence, and know what turns us on.
Right.
That lets you know what feels good, what doesn't. So we want to make sure that we are exploring our own bodies, feeling comfortable with how we look, what different space, areas we need, or what we need, what type of stimulation to turn us on. And then you can guide a partner through communication, even guiding their hand or their mouth, or, their genitals. So, beyond technique, we want to make sure that we have this relationship with our own body that allows us to be in a space and more comfortable, so that we can enjoy pleasure also with somebody else.
Right. And I noticed that a lot of women that I've worked with that are older, in their 40s, that have never played with themselves or have never used a vibrator, and they just don't even know what to do. And they're uncomfortable even touching themselves. And
Yes.
so many times I'll say, listen, if you don't want to touch yourself, get a vibrator. If you're unsure about it, talk to your partner. How do we bring toys into the bedroom so that way we can feel connected? Because I tell them your pleasure is worthy. And so if your partner is not open to bringing toys in, then they're not open to your pleasure. So how do we have that conversation with our partners?
I think first we want to tread lightly if we don't know how our partners feel about it. We haven't had these, but the key, I think, is to reframing toys as enhancement, not replacements, right? This isn't to replace you
Right.
because you're doing something wrong. It's to add variety, novelty.
And you
Keep
don't
things.
have to have a penis looking toy. You could have something that's, more like net neutral.
Yes. And introduce it with curiosity and playfulness, and easily, right? Like, so say something like, I saw something that I think could be really fun for us. I'm curious what this would feel like, and introduce toys for all of you, right? Not just you. So make it about a shared experience and connection, not pressure or performance. So, you might want to start with something smaller, a vibrating ring, something that you use together. Keep it fun. Don't make it awkward. Like, you can laugh. Like, sometimes these things are not going to work the way we think they're going to work. And when we introduce them, there's going to be something that feels awkward. Make it funny. Make a joke about it. Like, remember, this is somebody that you feel comfortable with, or hopefully,
You should.
Connected, right. So remember that it's about being together, approaching it with openness. A sense of adventure can be helpful. And use it as a tool for turning each other on, right? Not just yourself, and have some fun.
Right. Right. Fun and curiosity. That curiosity is a big word in the sexuality field, or it should be at least, because it takes the judgment off and it keeps you from, saying I shouldn't or I should. It's just be curious about it. And I know many times the toy, like you said, is to do it for us, not just for one person, because you don't want it to be like it's replacing. And many times a lot of men may not even realize it, but you take a little vibrator by those balls, they might even have a much better orgasm themselves. So when you bring it in as a couple toy to enhance and have fun rather than replace, it just leaves that much more space open for that enjoyment. Um,
100%.
yeah. So I know that with the orgasm, sometimes certain positions could be helpful, like lifting the hips or changing sideways. What have you seen that works really well for women to help reach those good, juicy spots?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that's really important is that there's no one size fits all when it comes to pleasure, right? So what works for one is not necessarily what's going to work for the other. So it's important to know what areas you want to hit and what does it for you. That being said, there are, of course, some positions that tend to work well for a lot of women because they allow for more clitoral stimulation, which is how a lot of people do experience the most pleasure, deeper connection, more control, right? So they can adjust the rhythm. So excuse me, modified like missionary where you put a pillow under your hips, so that your legs kind of go to your shoulder, which can enhance the pelvic angle, right? So help you reach, really places that feel really good. Sometimes what people call a G spot, but it's just an area that feels most pleasurable. Spooning is another good one, a favorite one. It allows you to go slower. It can be more enhanced intimacy because you can touch each other's body, allows for,
Touch yourself.
yeah, or have your partner touch, right? External stimulation. So stimulate that clitoris while you're doing it. So, I think really though it's less about the position and more about the communication and knowing what is pleasurable for you. Add hands, add a toy, eye contact, sexy talk. And suddenly, like even a basic position can become incredibly exciting and you can have like mind-blowing sex with. So, the position can help, but the magic really comes from when you're tuned into your partner, you're responsive, and you're open to doing anything and exploring what can work and what can feel good.
And tuned into your own body and turning off that mental checklist that's in your head of I got to do this, got to do this, got to do that. You know, a lot of times also we have differences in desires as we get older, as we're in longer term relationships, and we know that you have the men. Generalizing, men are more spontaneous, women are more responsive, and sometimes that can affect desires. But you have it the other way as well. So when you do have different levels of desire, how do we fix that without someone saying, okay, well, it's your fault that we don't have sex. It's your fault that you want too much. And it goes back and forth to the blaming game. And right away, what I notice is that I see it more so with the women. They're thinking so far ahead. They're not just saying, okay, let's just be in this moment. They're like, okay, but if I start this, then I have to do this, then I have to do this, then I have to spread my legs, then I have to wipe it up, and then I have to, they're not able to be there. And so how do we work on some of those different levels of desire in those longer term relationships?
It's such an important question, right? The most common thing that I see people present with is,
Most common.
desire discrepancy, right? Nothing's wrong with either, but one wants it more than the other. And, the key is to finding that middle ground and what feels good. And part of that can be shifting from blame to curiosity and collaboration. So instead of framing it, you want it too much, you don't want it enough, try to see, what does desire look like for each of us? How can we keep this communication open? Desire isn't just fixed or spontaneous. It can be also responsive. And there are so many factors that can contribute to
So many,
watching
yeah.
it more or less, whether it's hormones, contextual factors, interpersonal factors, right? So the goal is to understand each of your experiences, what it will take to get you to the point where you have more desire, and also expanding your definition of intimacy, right? Exploring ways that you can be intimate and physical and emotionally connected if it's not just, our traditional, view of what sex is, right? So, and sometimes it might mean scheduling time to connect, and sometimes it might be um listening to your partner about what their needs are and what's interfering, or getting them to the point where they're not wanting it more, or they're wanting it more than usual. So, again, the thing that I think is most important here is normalizing this. Mismatched desires is incredibly common. So just get curious about it. Start, redefining what intimacy means to you, looking at what's contributing to this, and finding things that start, you know, getting you more connected, and
Right.
things that you can do that aren't necessarily um, always what you would think, like play with different things or explore different things. And if one wants it more, that doesn't mean that the other, won't sometimes just do it. Or if one wants it less, that doesn't mean that, you can't contribute to the other person. One masturbate while the other is naked, so that you have something that's turning you on. So
I
read
love
what intimacy means, try different things. And this isn't a problem to fix. It's something to explore together and lead to a stronger connection.
Right. And then people have to understand that it is going to ebb and flow through different
Right.
times of your life, of your relationship, whether you have kids or working or something's bad happened, and there's depression and anxiety, and all these different things are going to take a toll on your relationship. And so you might have some spaces where it's not there. And you also have to ask yourself, when you're doing it, or when you're not doing it, or when you have that discrepancy, like you said, is changing that as far as making it to find out. I'm losing my train of thought, but I have my train of thought. You're asking the person basically, what do you need? Because so many times people might need it more because they're not getting the other intimacy parts. They're not getting the touch. They're not getting the affection. And the person is afraid to give them all of that because they're afraid it's going to turn into sex.
Yes.
So they stop doing it altogether.
Well, you made an important point. Desire waxes and wanes, but also, some of these things need to be done when they don't lead to sex. The cuddling, the mutual touch, the making
Right.
out, right? It
That's what I'm
shouldn't
going to
always
say.
lead to something more. Yeah.
Right. It's early in the morning right now when we're recording. So I was like a little, but
No,
anyway, and on that crazy note, I want to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more. Thanks.
If you enjoy these podcasts with Dr. Stacy, imagine the results you can get from a personal coaching session. As a clinical sexologist and certified sex coach with over 2 decades of experience, Dr. Stacy helps people just like you reignite passion, explore their desires, and break through blocks that may be holding you back, solo or with a partner. Whether you're struggling with communication, desire mismatch, performance anxiety, or simply want to feel more confident and connected in your sex life, Dr. Stacy is here to help. She offers a complimentary 15-minute consult so you can see if working together feels right. Visit drstacyfriedman.com to schedule your free call today, and let's take your passion to the next level.
And we're back with Dr. Rachel Needle talking about orgasms. And I don't want to leave out the men. So this little area here, I want to talk about a little bit about the men. And I know that some of the issues that the men have is whether they finish too soon, they don't finish enough, they have a difficulty focusing on it because they're so focused on the performance angle. And so I want to talk a little bit about the early ejaculation. And if they finish a little bit too soon, how can men focus on slowing things down without killing the mood, taking their time, and not doing it so fast?
Yeah, so finishing too soon is incredibly common, and usually it's not about a physical issue, but more about arousal regulation. So anxiety, pressure to perform, even a buildup of excitement after not having sex for a while. So the body's just used to doing it fast, but there are a lot of ways that you can slow down without killing the vibe, right? So first remember that there's a lot that can come before and after, right? Non-penetrative play up front, before, leading up to, having fun, exploring each other's bodies, oral sex, manual sex, anything else, touching your partner, and after. So just because you have an orgasm doesn't mean everything needs to stop, right? It actually needs to stop right after. And then if you're really struggling and you really think, it's premature, you can try the stop-start technique, the squeeze technique. I'm happy to go into those more if you'd like. I don't know how much, but it's not the end of the world if orgasm happens too quickly, right? Use your hands, mouth, toys. There's a lot that can go into it. So I really encourage people, don't feel shame around it. If you're struggling, feel free to reach out to somebody. But when you feel, when a man feels supported and doesn't have performance anxiety, they'll have more confidence, and that'll give them a better chance of, having, desirable and pleasurable sexual interactions. This isn't just about penetration.
Right. And what I see a lot happen is, like you said, they'll go ahead, they might ejaculate too soon, according to what they feel, and then they stop or they get frustrated.
Yeah.
And then it ruins the whole thing because they're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? It's not hard. But then you're missing the whole idea of connection, and the partner's frustrated because they're like, oh, well, if we're done in 1 minute, why do I even want to bother getting started? So the other the techniques that you were talking about, this is unfiltered, so we're allowed to talk about some of the techniques, but it's also something that you could look up online too. But get out of those two techniques, you have the squeeze technique and the start and stop. Maybe give one example of how to do one of them.
Yeah, you can practice with the start, stop techniques where you feel the build up. You have to notice and be in tune with your body to know when you're getting close. When you feel that, pressure where you're going to be close to having an orgasm, you're going to want to pause stimulation, stop completely. You can wait till it kind of subsides a little. That doesn't mean that you have to stop stimulating your partner or partners. You might want to switch positions, just stop for a little bit. Then when you feel like you're kind of not at that point anymore, you can continue stimulation. You'll want to do that about 4 times to kind of train your body if you want, but you could do it once if you only want to.
Right.
And then the release is incredibly enjoyable.
Right. It's almost like what they call edging. You're stopping yourself. But
Yeah.
you could practice it during masturbation also, and some men will masturbate dry, but yet they go to have sex and it's wet. So I always recommend to make sure that you're using some type of a lube to kind of stimulate that same type of feeling. So that could help. But on the flip side, sometimes we'll have people that come to us that are taking too long. And that's also a pressure because then the partner's like, oh, well, am I not attractive enough? And then they feel that performance anxiety because they're thinking about, oh, I have to come now.
Yep.
So what are some recommendations that you might suggest for that?
For when they're
lasting too long.
Yeah. And that is sometimes even, more stressful than when coming too fast. Right. Because a lot of people do deal with this and, delayed orgasm or even not reaching orgasm at all. Like I said, can be stressful. There's this pressure to perform. There's also like sometimes partners get upset about it, right? They think, is it me? So there's a lot of anxiety because then you're like, I know I'm letting my partner down. It can be frustrating for the person. So first, slow down and get out of your head as much as you can. Focus on the sensation. Remember that this isn't goal-oriented. When you stay in the present and focus on the sensations, you're more likely to orgasm anyway. So stop thinking like, why is it taking so long? What's wrong with me?
Stop thinking.
Yeah. So sometimes shifting positions can be helpful and just learning what it really takes and also making sure that there's not, some people have like an idiosyncratic masturbatory style, which means that they're used to getting, having an orgasm in their same way. And sometimes a partner can't mimic that.
Right.
So pay attention to what does it for you and maybe take a little break or change it up a little bit so that it is something your partner could mimic. Also show your partner what you enjoy. But stay out of your head and stop focusing on the orgasm and more focus on having pleasurable sexual experiences with with or without a partner.
Right.
Orgasm isn't a deadline. Doesn't have to be the goal. It's a bonus. It's enjoyable, but it can feel just as good without having one.
Absolutely. And like you said about masturbating one way and then having a partnered sex can be very, very different. So you have to change it up, which is like why I gave the example of using lube. Sometimes I'll tell people, you're probably masturbating either sitting or laying down on your back, facing a TV, watching porn or your phone, turn the porn off. Turn, your position, go like in missionary, masturbate that way, simulate how you're going to have sex. So that way you're kind of training your brain a little bit to different positions, different things could be very, very helpful. And that's, I guess, focusing. Same thing with men is turning that off and focusing on the pleasure aspect to be able to get into the mindset.
Yes.
So when you have men or women, when they struggle to have orgasms, a lot of times there's a lot of shame involved. And so how do we keep that confidence up? And how do we start that conversation with our partner to say, listen, it's not you. I mean, it seems so easy for me to just say, oh, you just say it. but so many people have a hard time just saying it. So how do we get that conversation going?
Yeah, I mean, being honest. I mean, first, it's important that you feel
Saying it.
comfortable, right? Feel comfortable with the partner to be able to say that, right? Like there's a lot of pressure, and you can acknowledge it together. And again, just go back to the basics. Go back to having fun, laughing, making out, touching. Working on getting out of your head. Communicate with your partner. Don't be dismissive. I think that's really important. Um, Being able to feel connected and vulnerable will help lead to pleasure and orgasm.
Absolutely. And speaking of pleasure, what are some helpful tips that we could offer the men to feel better with orgasm or masturbation, besides trying it on their own in different positions and things like that?
First, get out of your head. So, performance anxiety, stress, self-doubt, past experiences can impact arousal and orgasm. So, again, try to just take a step back and get out of your head, shift from performance to presence, right? So focus on connection, sensual touch, anything that grounds you in the moment. And also, talk to your partner. Communication is going to be key, because it can lead to a lot of fun and knowing each other better in a way that allows you to have more pleasure.
Be open to trying new things, being
100%.
curious, trying the vibrators, trying the
Have fun,
positions,
you
trying the
know,
blindfolds, getting rid of
and
sensations.
play with power, play with different kink, like,
Right.
different temperatures, hot, cold, try different positions, different places, like anything that brings in some novelty and fun and things that you haven't tried can be exciting and enjoyable. So, and again, like, it's not all going to go well. You can read about this position in Cosmo or Glamour and, think, oh my God, that'd be amazing. But a lot of these things are really difficult. So they might not go exactly how they are. So be okay with that, right? There's no, um, reason why everything works, doesn't work for everyone. And you can have fun and laugh about it and then just do a variation of it.
Right. And I have a quote in my book that says, if you're not laughing and having fun when you're having sex, you're doing it wrong.
Yes.
And people are so afraid, like, yeah, okay, you don't want to be going, like,
Oh, it's so many people laughing at them.
right, right. You're like, yeah, no, that's not what you want to do. But it is so important to be able to have a lighthearted feel when you go into this. It's supposed to be fun. And that's why people are not doing it. It's because they're not having fun. And so
Yeah.
you have to be open to trying things. You have to be open to fucking up. You have to be open to looking stupid, because that's what makes it so genuine and real and connecting and vulnerable.
Yes.
And that can bring orgasms to the next level when you are able to just be you,
Yes.
So I know that there's a lot of changes now with social media
Oh,
and
God.
and technology and all this kind of stuff. And that can also change how we look at ourselves, how we look at our relationships. So what have you found in your practice about social media and all that kind of stuff? Is there
Oh,
a decrease in confidence and everything like that?
huge impact. First, a lot of people are learning about sex and through social media or any sexual imagery, right? And it doesn't really teach us it doesn't educate us. It teaches us the
Right.
wrong things, right? Like, hey, a woman's gonna orgasm in like 0.2 seconds, and everyone's gonna have multiple orgasms, and everyone's gonna stay hard all the time, and everybody wants this, and without any education, it can actually be dangerous.
Yeah. When we're like, I want to be squirting, I want to be having the multiple orgasms. It's like, okay, well, what you're seeing is not necessarily reality.
100%. And so making sure you know that, and you're getting education from the right places, whether it's asking questions of an expert like one of us or reading books. It's not always what you see. So make sure that you're having fun and that you're educated, and don't compare yourself to what you're viewing, because that stuff isn't real most of the time. And there is no right way to do this, nor is there a right way for everyone to respond. So,
Right.
if that's what you think is happening. And in addition, what we see a lot in sexual imagery is like the position changing every 30 seconds, or the scene. And so it gets us used to needing that increased, visual stimulation, specifically men, especially because they're more visual.
Right.
And you need to practice without that, because that's not going to happen when you're with a real live human. You're throwing them up against the
Unless you give
wall,
them,
and then 2 seconds later,
$100,000.
yeah. So be realistic in what you're looking for and needing and wanting during sexual activity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Going to take one more quick break and then we'll be right back.
Looking to spice things up in the bedroom? Dr. Stacy's got you covered. From luxurious lotions to silky lubes and tantalizing toys, our collection has everything you need to turn up the heat and reignite that spark. Whether you're flying solo or with a partner, our products are designed to enhance intimacy and pleasure. Use the coupon code PURPLE and get 20% off your entire order. Visit drstacyfriedman.com, click the shop link, and explore our full range of goodies that are sure to bring out the fun in the bedroom. Let's make every moment more exciting. Dr. Stacy's Tantric Toys, where pleasure meets purpose.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the full body experience, because since we are so focused on just sex and intercourse, I like to offer people to do, or challenge people to do, an exploration night and turn it into feeling the entire body, touching the entire body, kissing the entire body. What are some suggestions that you have how to take away that end goal and focus on all of your senses? What are some things that you offer?
Yeah. So first I would say slow down. All the things you mentioned, right? But slow down and remember that having great sex isn't about friction and climax and goal, right? You want to wake up every part of you, immersion, right? Like mind, body, every sense. So ask yourself, what does sex sound like to you? Is it breath, music, words? What does it smell like? So go to every sense that you have and feel those. Stay in your body, stay mindful, stay connected.
I just got goosebumps.
What?
I just got goosebumps with everything you just said. Woo.
Well, it's true because, when we bring awareness to all five senses, sex becomes more than just an act. It becomes an experience, right? When we're truly present, it's not just hotter, it's more intimate, more connected, it's way more memorable and mind-blowing at times, So, engaging all the senses can lead to the best mind-blowing, hot, juicy sex ever.
Juicy. And also taking orgasm and the focus of intercourse off the table.
Yes.
I'm
So
sure
it makes things hotter for sure, right? When you take it off the table, we take away the pressure to finish, that there is an end in sight, right? We're being present. It's like kind of like slow dancing instead of sprinting, right? So tease, use anticipation, build the energy, excitement, sometimes even choose to skip the orgasm, right? It's not about the destination. So choose to skip it. And sometimes that can actually make sex the hottest you've ever had.
Yeah, and some of the people are like, what do you talk about? Skip the orgasm.
Yeah.
Get that.
I know, I get a lot of trouble for that. I'm not saying I don't like orgasm. Love orgasm. Want you to have orgasms. Not saying not. But when we put the full focus on that, when we make that the goal, I promise you miss the hottest, most memorable, exciting part of being sexual.
Right. And sometimes you can do that, take off the orgasm, take off the intercourse, and then have the experience and let it build up, where maybe you'd have the experience an hour later or the next morning or something like that. It doesn't have to be everything all at once every single time. There's so many times I ask people, when was the last time that you just, kissed and fooled around and stopped? And they look at me like, how do you do that? Like, you just do. You just stop. And people don't understand that you're allowed to stop. It doesn't have to always get to that orgasm and that goal.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy. So talking to a lot of the couples, what are some of homework assignments that I don't like to say work, home assignments that you like to offer people when they are learning each other's body a little bit better and not focusing so much on the orgasm, but also to help build up for the orgasm? What are some ideas that you offer?
Yeah. So one, I always tell people, spend some time kissing every day, like really making out, like a minute a day at least, just to feel connected, to let it know that, let you know that it doesn't have to go somewhere, but it can go somewhere. But it doesn't always, and it helps us feel, think about it. Like in long-term relationships, what's the thing that goes most often is that connection of making out, and making out is so freaking hot and so much fun. So get back to that.
Where's
Also,
my husband? I got to bring him down here because we do that every single day. And I
oh,
tell you, when I tell people that, they're like, you make out every day? I'm like, fuck yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it gets the juices going. And so then by the nighttime, you're either, first of all, exhausted, but if you are, it's so easy to build it right back up.
I just love making out. Like, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like,
Yes.
and a lot of people can experience a lot of pleasure, including orgasm from just kissing. Um,
That'd be nice.
but set the mood, focus on touching each other's bodies non-genially, like getting to know each other and really connecting to feel comfortable and vulnerable. And again, like, you building anticipation and connection. So do that. Again, have fun together. Some things that don't sound sexual but are like, I tell people that are in relationships, like tell each other one thing you appreciate about them every day. When we feel connected and appreciated by our partners, like it can make a difference in us having desire and how much we want to be sexual with them. Introduce something new. So one thing is have like a jar or a box or something, and each of you, like, however often you want, can throw like an idea in there of something you want to do. And once or twice a week, pull something out of that. And, you have the opportunity to veto something and say like, no, not comfortable with that, or to have conversation, or you just try something new or do something. So,
Be
make
curious. Yeah, be curious about it. That's a really great idea. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about your Modern Sex Therapy Institute, because you do a lot of great work in helping people get into this field. I want to just pop up some of your information so people can see what you do. So give us a little background about that.
Yeah, so Modern Sex Therapy Institutes is a number of things, right? There's a section that's continuing education training. We have new live workshops every month via Zoom right now. We also have over 400 archived workshops, been doing this for over 15 years. If people want certifications, whether it's sex therapy certification, sex coach certification, specific one like LGBTQIA affirmative therapy certification, sexual trauma. So I have over 18 certifications. They can do that. We also, Modern Sex Therapy Institute itself is a licensed school. So we provide a PhD in clinical sexology. So that's an option, but we really keep things cutting edge, really top-notch education, some of the biggest names in the field with their specialties, teaching our students. We feel blessed for that. We offer supervision, case consultation, anything you're looking for in the area of sex and sexuality. We have a great also professional directory our students are in. So if you are looking to find a therapist or a coach, you can find us at modernsextherapyinstitutes.com. Also, you can follow us on social media, Modern Sex Therapy Institutes. And if you need to reach me, info@modernsextherapy.com. And I know that you have all of our stuff up, so I'll stop now. But I'm very proud of what we've created.
Yeah, that'll all be in the show notes as well. So that way, if people miss it or they can't actually see the video, they'll be able to read it in the show notes too. So, Rachel, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your expertise, your wisdom, the honesty about pleasure, communication, and desire. We've covered so much today, a lot of good, juicy stuff. Why orgasms matter for everybody, not just men, not just women. Sex and libido fade with age. Bleh, that's a myth. Get rid of that. Navigating the mismatched desire, and even how technology is reshaping our intimate lives. So hopefully our listeners feel inspired to speak up, use their voice, not be afraid to dirty talk a little, explore themselves, and keep passion alive and make out every day.
I love it. Thank you for the great questions. I hope this was helpful for everybody. And
I am sure it's going to be a very juicy, delicious episode. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Thank you.
So this is it for this episode of the Purple Passion Project with Dr. Rachel and Dr. Stacy, where we keep it real, just the right amount of spice. And so today, if it stirred something in you, make sure you let it. And if you love what you heard, subscribe to see more. If you're ready to go deeper, follow me all over social media at Dr. Stacy Friedman for resources, behind the scenes magic. Until next time, stay curious, stay turned on, and never apologize for wanting more. See you next time.
This has been the Purple Passion Project with host Dr. Stacy Friedman. Tune in each week as Dr. Stacy breaks down walls, busting myths, and gives you permission to want more with no shame, no filters, and definitely no small talk. Check in every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, on your favorite streaming platforms. We look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to visit drstacyfriedman.com to learn more.